Hello and welcome to Ellen Ruth Soap. I'm Ellen and today it's hot process time. I'm going to pull out the crock pots and we're going to make hot process soap again. I've done a couple of videos before and I'm loving it. It's really fun and it's very different than cold process soap. But the reason that I like to do hot process soap is that when I use essential oils, I add it after the cook, and I feel like, and I don't have a chemistry degree and I don't have documented proof, but I feel like more of the properties of the essential oils stay in the soap after the cook. That's why I like hot process. If I'm going to go ahead and spend the price on an essential oil, I want the biggest bang for my buck that I can get. So I feel like hot process soap gets me there. I have a recipe that I love that I will share in the description box below. It is fluid enough when it's hot to do a beautiful hanger swirl. I've had great success with this recipe so far. I'm not an experienced hot processor. I'm still kind of a novice with hot process, but let's do it today, and I will share the recipe. For the colorant, I'm going to use my French green clay, which is a very gentle, I buy this in bulk, but it's a very gentle green clay. But French green clay is beautiful on your skin. It's wonderful. But to amp up the green color, I'm going to boost it with a little bit of spirulina powder. And I'm hoping that green will come through the hot process cook. I don't know if it will or not, but it's gorgeous. It's great for you. It's going in there. So between that and the French green clay, I think we can get a green color. I'm hoping. For a swirl, I want to do a hanger swirl on this. So I am going to be using a Thieves type essential oil blend to fragrance this soap, and I think it has wonderful properties. So when I use essential oils, I'm really loving hot process. So that's the blend that I'm using today, and I just want to encourage you, whether you use fragrant oil or essential oil, to really get familiar with your usage rates. So I will share the recipe for the soap base, but I'm going to leave the fragrance up to you, depending on, because I don't know what you're going to put in your soap. And there are wonderful fragrance and essential oil calculators out there. I'll try to find a few and leave in the description box below. So that is a very individual thing. The soap recipes that I use, whether it's cold process or hot process, stay the same, but the fragrance and essential oils can fluctuate depending on what you're using. So I encourage you, if you are a soap maker or a beginning soap maker, to really get familiar with that and learn how to calculate your own usage rates on whatever it is you're using. So that all being said, I'm going to get everything pulled together, get my hair pulled back, get my crock pots out. Let's come back and make some hot process soap today. So I've got all the prep work done for the hot process recipe today, and I will tell you the recipe for one crock pot, and then I'm just making two for the different colors, and that's what I'm going to swirl in my soap mold. So the recipe will be one crock pot's worth, but I need a double recipe. So what's going on in my wonderful crock pots right now is 12 ounces of coconut oil, 6 ounces of sustainable palm oil, 4 ounces of cocoa butter, 6 ounces of castor, 2 ounces of shea butter, and 30 ounces of olive oil. That's what's going on in here. And I'm just got these on high, gonna let it all melt down. And then off to the side, this is my super fat and my little magic cup of stuff that helps make this fluid for it to be a swirlable batter is in my little cup here. And I just have these, one for each batch. I have these kind of cozied up against the side of the crock pots to warm up with the radiant heat, because one of the deals with keeping a hot process soap fluid is to have everything warm. Even the containers that you're mixing in and all the additives, have it nice and warm, and it keeps things fluid. Because with hot process, when it hits the cold air, it gets that crusty layer. It firms up really fast. So what's in my little super fat cup here is 3 tablespoons of Greek yogurt, which is what I choose. You don't need to use Greek yogurt. You could use regular yogurt. I have plain. If you wanted to use a flavored yogurt, I guess you could, but I have 3 tablespoons of plain Greek yogurt is what's in here, along with 0.7 ounces of sodium lactate, which is 4 teaspoons of sodium lactate, and 1 ounce of hempseed oil, organic hempseed oil. So I will be adding this after saponification and it's cooked and we go through the gel phase. This will be added last while it's still hot, and then after it cools down, we'll come in with the essential oils, but I don't want to add those until the very end because I don't want to overheat them. But anyway, these are my little cups that are just going to sit on the side here by the crock pots and hopefully get warmed up, and I'm waiting for these to all get melted. Let me tell you what's going on in my live bucket here today. This is 1 crock pot's worth of lye solution. I have so I'm looking over at my recipe. I have 21 ounces of fluid. What I did was I did 11 ounces of distilled water and 10 ounces of aloe vera juice because I really want these to be just wonderful. These are all natural, and I just thought aloe sounded wonderful, especially with the green color, the green clay and the spirulina. It just sort of spoke aloe to me. So this is a split of water and aloe, 21 ounces, 8.2 ounces of sodium hydroxide. And I did dissolve 2 tablespoons of sugar in the water lye solution. I snipped up my tussa silk fibers before I added the lye in here, and then that melted the tussa silk. So that's what's going on in this pot, and I have another pot just like this for the other crock pot. So the lye is off to the side, and it can just sit there. It's hot, but it's okay if I add it hot because this is hot processed soap. It's a very different it's a different process than cold process, and it's so odd for me to do this. Every time I do it, I'm amazed. I really enjoy hot process. It just blows my mind every time I do it. It's so different than cold process, and the soap is wonderful. So anyway, that's everything that's going on. After the oils get melted, I'm going to come in with some colloidal oats, and I will probably add my green clay and my kaolin clay to the oils, and then I will save the spirulina off till the last minute because I don't want that to overheat. But we'll come back in with our oats and clay after these oil chunks get all melted down. All right, all the oils are melted. These are nice and hot, so I'm going to blend in my colloidal oats here in each bucket and my clays. I'm going to do white kaolin clay in one bucket and my French green clay in the other. So I'll do 2 tablespoons of the white clay there. And I will use the same scoop here in my green clay. So pretty and so luxurious. All right, let me get those blended in, and then we'll get to adding the lye solution. All right, it's time to add the lye solution to each one of these. So, and it's a warm lye solution going into a warm crock pot. There's one. And then I will just stick blend these up to a nice trace and put the lids on and let them start cooking. All right, I've got a nice light trace. I'm gonna go ahead and pop the lids on these and let them start to cook. And we'll come back for the first stir down after they start to kind of jelly up and do some cooking. So we'll be back in a bit. It's been about 15 minutes. I just have these little towels on the tops because there's vent holes and I want to keep all the moisture inside. So that's all these little things are doing. Let's pull the lid off and I'll show you. It's starting to cook up and around. I'm going to go ahead and give it a stir. You don't have to stir it at this point, but you can. Because of course crock pots heat from the outside, and so I want it to heat evenly, so I like to give it a stir down and kind of mishmash it around. So that's what I'm going to do. This is the white kaolin clay side, and these crock pots don't heat evenly, and I do have my little oven mitts down here, and I'm probably going to swap them on the bases. So if you see the colors changing places, it's just me moving the bowls back and forth so that I can try to keep these at about the same temperature. That's what I'm doing. So you're not seeing things if you all of a sudden see the green on this side. And also off to the side, I have a pitcher filled with warm soapy water that I put my utensils in to kind of keep them from getting too chunky as I'm stirring things down. So that's off. I have my stick blender end in there, and then I put my spatula in there, and it helps clean up easier, and all this like gooey sticky stuff doesn't get too dried out and become too big of a hot mess. So all right, this is the French green clay side. Actually, I keep calling it French green clay, but the label says European green clay. So maybe it's not necessarily from France. All I know is it's wonderful, luxurious, it's great for your skin, and it's a beautiful color. And it's not even really that green, but we'll be adding the spirulina in a little bit anyway. So there is that stir down. Kind of feels like applesauce right now. But we will get the lid back on and let these continue to cook for a little bit till it's time for the next stir down. All right, time for one more stir down here. And I have a little bit of separation, and that is not unusual. If I can't stir it out with a spatula, I will get my stick blender in there. Oh yeah, I think I will throw my stick blender in. This is very liquidy. Let's do that. So this is cooking up really nice right now. It's doing everything that a hot process soap should be doing. So after I get this blended up, we'll probably be hitting about the mashed potato stage, but we're still sort of at applesauce. I love the words they use to describe the phases of hot process. It's awesome. It is sort of like cooking. All right, we're just about getting to the point where I want to start adding in my additives, my super fat, and all the good stuff. So let me give this a stir down. We're definitely at mashed potato stage. I am going to go get my pH strips and do a little pH test. I don't want to add the super fat until after I get this all saponified and pass the pH test, just because I don't want to mess up with the consistency. So let me go grab my pH strips and we'll come take a look at this. So this has soap on it. I'm going to go ahead and tap the pH strip all up on there, and you can see it turning green. So we are definitely saponified. This is soap. That's awesome. So it's time to super fat. Again, this has the hemp oil, the yogurt, and the sodium lactate. That's what's going on in this little cup. I did go ahead and I just turned the heat off on these crock pots. They still have a lot of radiant heat, so they will stay nice and warm. But these are my little additives here are warm. They've been hanging out next to the crock pots this whole time. So we get that stirred into this one. This is the white kaolin clay again. And then we'll move over to the green and add the spirulina and the super fat. Wait, I was wrong. I'm so sorry. This is the green. I'm going to add my spirulina in over here. This is the white. See, I fooled myself switching the bowls around. I lost track. But let's go ahead and get the super fat added in here, the hemp oil, the yogurt, and the sodium lactate. Goodness, you probably thought I was going crazy. You all probably saw that I was talking about the wrong bowl. So yeah, this is the white kaolin clay. That's the green kaolin clay. Not kaolin, the green European clay that I'm going to add the spirulina to. My word. So again, the crock pot is turned off, and I'm going to put the lid on and let these cool down. let's take the temperature, and if we're at 180 or under, yep, 177, I'm gonna go ahead and add the essential oils now, and we'll get plopping. I know it's hard to fit everything in the screen here. So the essential oil blend that I'm using is a Thieves type essential oil blend, and it's made up of cinnamon, clove, eucalyptus, lemon, and rosemary. Almost equal parts, not quite, but that's the blend that I'm using, and I would really encourage you to do your own research on essential oils and fragrant oils, and find out what you want to use. So that's the part of this that I'm going to let you figure out, because each essential oil and fragrant oil has different usage rates. So whatever volume you're making, you need to run your fragrance through a soap or through a fragrance calculator, whether it's an essential or a fragrant oil. Or if you're unscenting, you know, this would be wonderful unscented. Going to get this essential oil blend mixed in here, and then we'll get to plopping into the mold, and hopefully I'll be able to run a hanger through this. I'm hoping. Now again, being a hot process soap, it will have kind of a rustic top on it, but once the bars are cut, that's not a big deal. So I just want to make sure that the essential oil is blended in here really well. It's the next day. I let this sit overnight. I actually popped it in the refrigerator for several hours just to kind of start the cooling down process, and then just let it sit uncovered. And again, it's a rustic top, but you know what? It's kind of pretty. I did try to do some little swirls in there, but anyway, let's get in here and see if we got some nice swirls going on the inside. I'm loving how the green came out, so I'm very hopeful that it's going to look great on there, but there's only one way to find out. Let's get in here. Okay, it's time to cut these bars, and they are still a little bit kind of, I don't want to say gooey, but there's a lot of moisture still in here. So I'm going to cut these, and I'm probably going to let them sit for a good 48 hours or so before I come back in and bevel and stamp them, because I had to use a lot of moisture in this recipe to get it fluid enough to do the swirling. So it's a give and take. So because there's so much moisture in here, they're going to take a little bit longer to be firmed up. And all that being said, these will cure for the full 4 to 6 weeks also. That's how I like to do it with hot process. Okay. So we did get some swirling. Let's just keep going in here. The spirulina is really pretty. This was a little gloppy in the mold, so I don't have as many swirls as I have gotten in the past. but these are very earthy looking, and I think that really goes along with this essential oil blend. I think, I don't know, I'm kind of loving it. Rustic, but very cool. Got a little bit of an air pocket there, and I'll show you how I fill that in when I get to trimming these. No big deal though. I'm very excited that there isn't an air pocket problem with these. All right, let's get to the next loaf here. And because I wanted these to be very natural, I didn't use any titanium dioxide to lighten the uncolored portion, the kale and clay portion. So it's got a very earthy tone to it. But that is okay. Yeah, these are pretty rustic. But you know, something beautiful about that. I am not disappointed with the rusticness. I'm getting a little bit of a swirl and a little air pocket. And again, I'll bring you along as I fix those. They're very easy to fix. It's not a big deal. I'm starting to see a little swirl. All right, I've waited a couple of days here and they've firmed up very nicely and the colors lightened up a little bit. I am loving how the spirulina and the French green clay, or the European green clay, has come out. The top is rustic, but actually I think it's actually really pretty. So, and the fragrance, the essential oil, has stayed very nice. It's a nice, I think a relatively strong scent left in here, and of course all the properties of essential oils are in here because it was put in after the cook. But I'm going to clean up the sides here and stamp this, and then I will show you how I fill in the little air pockets that I had, because this was kind of gloopy this time. I have made hot process before that was more fluid. This one was a little more chunky, and you know, it is what it is. It's still amazing soap. But I'm going to trim this, stamp it, and then I will show you how to repair air pockets in your soap bars. So let's get to it. Here's my bucket of soap shavings, and this is getting almost full. I will need to rebatch this. I have my handy dandy KitchenAid vegetable peeler. You can use any vegetable peeler. I got this a while ago. I think I got this at like Ross or Marshall's, one of those stores. Anyway, I like it because it's heavy and it just feels good in my hand, and I get a nice even bevel on the corners of the soaps. And that is why I like it. It's just a nice smooth beveling action. It makes it there's no sharp edges on my bars when I get done. So this is my beveler of choice. And there's my bucket. That's for another video later. That does not go to waste. All the good stuff in there. So now I choose a side, and well, I guess I'll do that side. And here is my stamp that I got from Digital to Create. There's a link down in the description box below. This is specifically made for soap, so it's obviously a wood mount. And then the impression stamp is a hard plastic resin, and because it's for soap, the rise on this impression is a little bit higher than a normal stamp, so that you have plenty of room to sink down in and get a nice clean impression on your stamp or on your soap. So what I do is I have my 91% isopropyl alcohol, and I spritz my stamp very liberally, and this will all evaporate off. It's going to make it wet, but that's not a big deal because it evaporates because it's alcohol. And for me, it helps release it really well from the soap. Now these are still relatively soft, so I'm not going to tap hard. And again, this depends on the soap. Some soaps that I do are rock hard and you got to whack, like my coconut oil soap, 100% coconut oil. I've got to whack really hard. These are relatively soft because of the high moisture content, so I didn't have to tap that hard. And just let the alcohol evaporate off. It makes a nice clean impression, and that is how I bevel and stamp the soaps. We'll get to the rest of these, and I will find a couple that have holes in them and we will repair those. So here's one that has a little air pocket right on the corner here. And so I've just taken some shavings from another soap that I beveled, and Because this is still relatively fresh, it's just a couple days old, it's pliable, you can almost make like a soap dough out of it. So I take one of the shavings that color matches. If it had been on the green side, I would have taken a green shaving, but it's on the lighter side, so I took a light shaving. Just kind of mash it around, make it pliable, and I put it in the little hole here all the way in, and kind of just mash it and fill it in to the hole. And after it cures out, it will be like no hole. I know it looks light right now because I've just manipulated it, but after the cure, you won't even see that that was a hole there. So any of my soaps that have air pockets, I will just take shavings, whether it's a green one or a light one, and fill in the holes, and that is how I repair any air pockets on the bars. All right, here's a couple more. This one's right down on the edge of the green, and this one's right up on the edge of the green. And we'll go ahead and fill those in.